I trusted him with my whole heart. He told me he was stuck in traffic, but what I discovered instead broke me into pieces. The man I was about to marry, the man I thought was my forever, wasn't just late, he was hiding a betrayal so deep it cut my soul. And the worst part, the betrayal came from someone I never expected, my own sister. Stay with me, because what happened next will shock you, and the revenge I chose wasn't just about him. It was about taking my power back once and for all. Backhand index pointing right. Don't look away, because this story proves that betrayal always comes with a price. My name is Amelia, and for the longest time, I believed in love stories that ended with happily ever after. Growing up, I was the kind of girl who dreamed about her wedding day, about walking down the aisle, and about building a home with someone who truly cherished me. When I met Ethan, everything seemed to fall into place. He was charming, attentive, and made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. My friends would often joke that he was too good to be true, but I ignored their teasing because I wanted to believe. Ethan and I had been engaged for 6 months, and the wedding was only weeks away. Every moment of my life revolved around planning that perfect day. From choosing the dress to imagining our vows, I thought nothing could go wrong. My parents adored him, my friends admired him, and I worshipped him. Then there was my younger sister, Clara. She was bold, beautiful, and always had a way of capturing people's attention without even trying. Growing up, I sometimes felt overshadowed by her, but she was my sister, my blood. I trusted her with everything, my secrets, my dreams, and even the details of my relationship with Ethan. One evening, Ethan called me and said he was running late. "Traffic is insane," he told me, his voice calm, convincing. I thought nothing of it, but as the minutes turned into hours, something inside me began to stir. Call it intuition, call it paranoia, but a voice inside whispered, "Check." I decided to drive. I told myself I was just being silly, that I would find him exactly where he said he was. But instead of traffic, my car led me to a hotel on the edge of town. At first, I thought maybe it was a coincidence, maybe he was there for work. But when I walked inside and saw his car parked outside, my heart sank. The real punch came when I saw who walked out of the hotel room with him. My sister Clara, her hair messy, her lipstick smudged, and Ethan right behind her. In that moment, my world collapsed. My breath caught in my chest, and I froze, unable to process what my eyes were seeing. Ethan, my fiancé, the man I trusted with my heart, was walking out of a hotel room with Clara, my own sister. Their laughter, careless and intimate, stabbed at me like 1,000 knives. I felt like the ground beneath me had given way. I ducked behind a wall, my heart pounding so loud I was afraid they'd hear it. Clara leaned into him, her hand brushing his arm like she had every right to touch what was mine. And Ethan, he didn't resist. In fact, he looked at her the way I once prayed he'd always look at me, like she was his entire world. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind screamed, this can't be real. Not him, not her, but it was real, painfully real. My hands trembled as I gripped my phone, torn between confronting them right there or gathering proof. A part of me wanted to storm in and scream to expose their betrayal in the rawest way possible. But another part of me, the quieter, sharper part, knew I had to play this carefully. Revenge wasn't about impulse. It was about precision. I snapped a few photos, my hands shaking, tears blurring my vision. Each click of the camera felt like carving their betrayal into stone. They would not be able to deny it. They would not be able to twist this into some misunderstanding. As I sat in my car, staring at the photos, a flood of memories washed over me. Ethan holding my hand as he proposed, Clara promising she'd always stand by me, the way my parents celebrated when we announced our engagement. And now, all of it was poisoned. When I got home that night, I didn't tell anyone what I had seen. Not my parents, not my friends, not even Clara. I stayed quiet. I let them think I was still the same trusting Amelia. But inside, a storm had begun. Every smile from Clara, every sweet word from Ethan, now felt like daggers in my back. And yet, I pretended. I needed time. I needed to plan. Because if they thought they could betray me and walk away untouched, they were about to learn how wrong they were. The days that followed felt like I was living inside a nightmare only I knew about. Ethan still kissed me goodbye every morning, claiming he had late meetings, and Clara still called me sis with her sweet, fake smile. On the surface, nothing had changed, but for me, everything had. At night, when Ethan thought I was asleep, he would sneak out of bed to answer work calls. I would lie still, my eyes wide open in the darkness, knowing exactly where he was going. Sometimes I could smell Clara's perfume on his shirt when he returned. Every detail, every lie, burned itself into my memory. The hardest part was Ethan. It was Clara. She sat at my parents' kitchen table like nothing was wrong, laughing, helping Mum with recipes, making plans for the wedding. She even offered to help me with my dress fittings, her eyes shining with the kind of false loyalty that made me want to scream. How could my own blood betray me this way? But I said nothing. I swallowed my rage like poison, letting it spread quietly through me. I smiled when I had to. I played my part, because the more normal I seemed, the less they suspected. And the less they suspected, the more freedom I had to plan their downfall. I started keeping a journal, writing down every lie, every late-night disappearance, every text I managed to glimpse when Ethan wasn't careful enough. He thought his phone was safe with its passcode, but I had already memorized the way his fingers moved across the screen. Soon, I had access to every secret conversation between him and Clara. And what I found confirmed the worst. Messages about stolen moments. Messages about a future without me. Messages where Clara dared to mock me, saying I was too naive to notice. Those words shattered something inside me, but they also gave me clarity. I wasn't going to simply confront them. I wasn't going to scream or beg or let them see me break. No, I was going to make them regret it. Because betrayal like theirs didn't deserve forgiveness. It deserved exposure. It deserved destruction. And I knew exactly when and where I would strike. On the one day, they thought they had everything under control. The wedding day was coming closer. And so was my revenge. Once the wedding date was set, the house filled with a dizzying mix of fairy tale planning and poisonous normality. Clara floated through fittings and flower meetings like a guest star in my life, offering opinions, pinching my cheeks, asking about colors, while Ethan smiled at her with that lazy, intimate look I once thought belonged only to me. My parents buzzed with excitement, proud and utterly blind. But behind my calm face, something colder was taking shape. I stopped hopping for apologies. I stopped waiting for conscience. Instead, I became methodical. If they were playing a public charade, I would unmask it in public. If they wanted spectacle, I would make sure the spectacle exposed them. Every spare hour I had, I turned into research. I copied messages I found when Ethan left his laptop unlocked. I saved hotel receipts that appeared under his name with dates that matched his late nights. I cataloged photos, blurred, grainy, perfect, of Clara slipping into his car after midnight. Each piece of paper, each screenshot, I filed and backed up. I knew that in a courtroom, in a family meeting, or even at a dinner table, evidence speaks when words fail. I also enlisted an ally, Daniel, a quiet coworker Ethan had once brushed off who owed me a favor. Daniel was practical, discreet, and used to paperwork. He agreed to help corroborate the financial trail, diving into company expense reports and quietly confirming anomalies. He emailed me notes. Faux client dinners, reimbursements processed under odd account codes. It was small, clinical stuff, but it piled up into a story that couldn't be explained away. At home, I kept performing. I laughed at Clara's jokes, accepted her help organizing guest lists, and made sure no one thought I was unraveling. The more ordinary I seemed, the more they lowered their guard. Ethan grew cockier, Clara grew careless. That arrogance is what always breaks people, not rage, but complacency. I rehearsed my reveal in my head nightly. No screaming, no sobbing, calm, precise, public. I pictured faces watching, neighbors whispering, my parents' faces going from smug to stunned. I imagined Ethan's charm draining, the way people who rely on image crumble when the image is torn away. The last week before the wedding, I sent one simple message to Ethan. Bring everything you think you can hide, receipts, passwords, alibis. The day is coming when these will matter. His reply was a smug emoji. He thought it was a bluff. He was wrong. Tomorrow, everything I'd gathered would become a weapon. The week before the wedding felt like walking a tightrope. Every laugh at the engagement party, every photo posted online, every congratulatory text from relatives tightened the knot in my stomach, and yet I moved through it all like a ghost, measured and unreadable. People told me how radiant I looked. Inside, I was assembling the final pieces of a puzzle they would never see coming. Daniel and I met in the quiet of a cafe one rainy afternoon, sliding into a corner booth as if conspiring. He placed a small envelope between us, bank printouts, expense logs, scanned receipts. "This ties her lunches to company refunds," he murmured. "It's not glamorous, but it's undeniable." He had also secured a timed copy of emails from Ethan's work account, client invoices that never matched client names. Practical proof you can't weep away. I crafted the narrative in my head. No shouting, no dramatic collapse, only facts arranged like tiles on a table. The moment had to be surgical. I pictured the look on Ethan's face when polite guests flipped through paperwork, the way Clara's smile would freeze when people realized those cozy weekend trips were billed as business. My parents, who had chosen appearances over their daughter, would feel the public disgrace of their choices. On the day I chose, I kept my movements mundane. I sent an innocuous group text, "Family dinner at my place tonight, celebrating final checks for the wedding." The message sounded harmless. It was the perfect trap. My parents would come, Clara would too, Ethan would be there in armor of arrogance. I made sure the seating plan placed them where the cascade of truth would hit hardest. That evening, I placed printed folders at each plate under a crisp napkin. Each folder contained a neat file: photographs, hotel receipts, screenshots of messages, the company expense sheet annotated by Daniel. I had also arranged for a neutral third party, a former colleague of Ethan, who had grown suspicious, to attend. His presence meant someone credible would corroborate the financial trail if Ethan tried to rebuke it as theft or mistake. When the first course ended and polite chatter filled the room, I stood slowly and asked for a toast. My voice was steady. I didn't accuse. I simply said, "Before we celebrate, I want to thank everyone who's supported us, and I want to make sure everything about our future is clear." Then I slid a folder toward my mother and pushed one toward Ethan. The room inhaled. Forks paused, glasses stilled. For the first time since this nightmare began, I watched the people who had hurt me squirm under facts they couldn't walk away from. The quiet was louder than any shout, and its weight was the beginning of their undoing. The silence at that dinner table was thick enough to choke on. My mother opened the folder first, her hands trembling. At first, she laughed nervously as if this was some mistake, some cruel prank. But her eyes scanned the hotel receipts, the dates that overlapped with Ethan's business trips, the photos of him and Clara entering a seaside inn together. Her lips pressed into a thin line, the denial dying before it could reach her throat. Ethan, however, tried to recover. He shoved the folder back across the table, his voice sharp, his eyes darting from face to face. "This is fabricated. She's jealous. She's trying to destroy me because I've been successful without her." His words sounded hollow, rehearsed, like a bad actor on a cheap stage. Then Daniel stepped forward. Calm, composed, he laid a second set of documents on the table. "These aren't her words. They're company records. I verified them myself. Ethan has been billing the firm for Clara's expenses for months, and the emails, well, they speak for themselves." Clara's mask shattered in real time. Her face drained of color, her carefully curled hair falling forward as she lowered her head. She whispered, "I didn't want it to be like this," but no one was listening. My father's face flushed with shame, realizing the golden son-in-law he defended was nothing more than a liar with an overinflated ego. For once, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel betrayed or humiliated. I felt strong. Every set of eyes in that room turned from me, the supposed overdramatic, bitter fiancé, and burned into Ethan and Clara instead. My parents' silence screamed louder than their past words. They had chosen him over me, and now they were watching their choice rot in front of them. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply stood, my voice steady. "You see, I didn't need revenge. I only needed the truth. And tonight, the truth walked into this room and sat down with all of us." Then I picked up my coat, thanked Daniel with a nod, and walked out the front door. Behind me, chaos erupted, voices raised, accusations flying, reputations collapsing. But I didn't need to stay. My part was over. For the first time in months, I felt free. The lies had burned, the betrayal exposed. And as I stepped into the cold night air, I realized something Ethan and my parents never understood. Sometimes the strongest revenge is simply walking away while they destroy themselves.